Hello everyone, OlgaShow on the third day of Bitcoin conference here in San Jose, California. May 19th, 2013, first Bitcoin conference of such a big variety of people, over 1,500 I must say, attendees, lots of sponsors, exhibitors, a lot of interesting information floating around, a lot of ideas. And here I have Pele Brandgaard from Kipachi.
Yeah.
All the way from Nicaragua.
Yes.
So like international conference, okay? We have Russians, we have Nicaragua, we have Czech, America. So what brought you down here?
We are launching a new Bitcoin wallet for the developing world, and with a particular focus on Africa. Our parent company is very experienced in the African market, has been working there for 12 years, and we currently do a lot of business down there, and Bitcoin I think is the perfect technology for developing countries because it's decentralized, it's safe, it's secure, but until now it hasn't really been easy to use for people. So what we're trying to do is create a really easy to use wallet that people who don't have computers, who aren't tech savvy necessarily, that they can use to use Bitcoin.
Well, I remember when I went to Africa, everybody had cell phone, nothing to eat or to drink, and they would always offer me Coca-Cola or Pepsi coming from America. And I'm like, no, I don't even drink that in America, so just give me the water. But water was hot commodity, and cell phones was in everybody's hands. So I would not be surprised that Bitcoin would be one of the payments, because they have so many small countries and big countries, and they kind of not cooperating perhaps with each other. They all have different money, and traveling is permissible, but money exchange rate is really a big problem there.
It is a large problem down there. You can do payments in many countries now within the country fairly easy, but it's difficult to send money, say, from Kenya to Tanzania. That's a pretty expensive process, and there's a lot of business going on between different countries within Africa.
So I would say my experience was I had $100 American Express check, and I could receive only $30 out of that check if I would do transactions in Africa through the banks, because so many middlemen was involved at the time. But that was about, I don't know, 2007. That was my experience. I'm like, wow, I might as well take those American Express checks back to America and get my $100 without any transaction humongous fees.
Yep.
So coming from Nicaragua, you don't come from Nicaragua.
No.
You look like Nicaraguan and speak Spanish, but where did you come from?
I'm from Denmark originally, and I've only really lived in Nicaragua about 3 weeks now. So,
3 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're fresh, and how did you like that?
I love it, love it. Great place, friendly people, and I got a great team down there working with me.
So those engineers, Nicaraguans?
Yeah, I've got a great designer and a great team of engineers down there.
And Denmark, you would never think, such a small country, and producing adventurous people going all over the place, trying to change the world for hopefully a better place to live.
Yeah, well, that's, I know a lot of Danish people traveling all around the world, but for me it's very important to be able to change the world. You see a lot of problems in this world. A lot of it's due to payment systems of banks, government regulators, and we need to deal with all of those, of course. And each country is different, but we have the experience to do that, probably more than anyone else.
Now let's come back to Bitcoins. Why Bitcoins, and what brought you into that field?
I've been working with cryptocurrencies since the late 90s. Most people have forgotten about it now, but there was a wave back then in the late 90s, and it kind of fizzled away after 9/11. But there were many different cryptocurrency kind of projects back then, and I was working with things like that until about 2004, and Bitcoin brought me back. It's great. Bitcoin solves a lot of the problems that we were trying to solve back in those days.
So when did you come back to Bitcoins? Like 3 weeks ago, or
No.
or 2009, or a little later?
I've been following it pretty much since the beginning, and I was skeptical because I have seen so many different cryptocurrencies before. But the more I started following it, the more I actually started to read into the protocol and how it works, and it started, I mean, literally blowing my mind how everything just works together in such an amazing way. It solves all the issues that it solves are things that we've worked with before, but I mean, there's a lot of problems that we couldn't solve before that Bitcoin has solved.
So I guess probably it's got more supporters than you had them in 1990.
Yes, but as a matter of fact, in the late 90s, several of the cryptocurrencies were sponsored by large companies and by banks. DigiCash, which was the first one, was working with Deutsche Bank. They had a very large experimental rollout in Germany. Mark Twain Bank in the US were doing, and those were cryptocurrencies. They were US denominated, but they were cryptocurrencies. IBM, lots of these companies, Microsoft, they were all experimenting in the field back in the 90s. So.
And for some reason, they're not here yet.
Yep.
They let in the geeks move in and shake the world, or
yeah.
what's happening?
After 9/11 and the Patriot Act, everyone started getting scared about working in the field. So it took something like Bitcoin. I mean, the primary feature of Bitcoin is that it's decentralized. That is the thing that means that it can't be shut down. And that was the number one problem with every single other cryptocurrency beforehand. There had to be some kind of centralized server involved, so they could all be shut down. And yeah, so IBM, Microsoft, Digital, all of those companies, they just dropped it. And Deutsche Bank, they closed down their projects, and Mark Twain Bank, they closed down their projects.
So decentralized, what does it mean?
It means there's no server that you can go switch off. You can't go in and raid an office somewhere and close down Bitcoin. You have to literally find all the, I don't know how many nodes are connected, but hundreds of thousands of computers that are on the Bitcoin network. You have to disconnect all of them. And that's pretty much impossible.
And it could be in different countries,
Yep.
so the government of different countries need to cooperate, collaborate, and be willing to do something about it.
Mm-hmm. What's happening now is that the governments need to understand what Bitcoin is and not try and stop Bitcoin. And I think they're starting to understand how it works, but they really need to look at this as a new reality and then work on changing the way they do things, because the regulators are used to going in, or prosecutors really, they're used to going in, getting bank account details and stuff like that. They can probably get more information for free without a court order out of the Bitcoin system.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually, I think for prosecutors and law enforcement, Bitcoin is actually a benefit to them. It's not what they're used to. So they're scared, they're worried about it. But I think large governments, I think the US, China, and several other governments probably already know how to go in and analyze Bitcoin and get the information out of it that they need. It's just going to be different information that they're used to.
Now, coming into cryptocurrency field,
Mm-hmm.
when did you decide to do so in your life?
Well, it was in the 90s. I was very fascinated by it. As many of us in the Bitcoin world and many of us computer geeks are, I'm a libertarian. I saw socialism, grew up in not a communist country, but a socialist country in Denmark. And I saw it, and I grew up as a socialist, and I saw the problems that caused to my country. And so I became a libertarian and started looking at ways that we could use technology to change the world. And so that's really how I got into it, because I saw cryptocurrencies as a way, and cryptography really as a whole, as an activist movement that takes away control and enables people.
Now, what kind of education do you need to have? Computer scientist or?
I have a computer science degree from England, but yeah, you don't really necessarily need that. I mean, I think a lot of people who work with Bitcoin are just, people who like to stay up at night and work on their computer. So.
And learning as they go and keep digging and
Yeah.
digging and looking and. I notice a lot of technology we use in our days sometimes doesn't have a big person's name. And the more I live in this world, the more I realize a lot of technology came from engineers, geeks,
Yep.
could be computer scientists, could be mechanical engineers, and the team of people who actually get together and make the movements.
Exactly.
And you have to have guts, I guess. You have to have enthusiasm, knowledge, sometimes money, and sometimes you don't wait when the money comes, you just keep moving. And that's very interesting movements I see here.
I mean, all great change has come from either engineers or entrepreneurs. It has never come from politicians. At least no good change has come from politicians. Plenty of bad change has come from politicians, of course. But like I see a lot of young people who are very idealistic and they want to go in and change the world, so they join NGOs or political groups and stuff like that. For me, I think it's a waste of energy and of bright people, and take very smart, driven people and turn them into these political creatures. And for what? Really, it doesn't help anything going in, working out of a congressman's office in Washington, D.C. You can make a lot more change programming or working on open source technologies and starting a business that can change the world. It's a lot more important.
So instead of just promising, you make an action.
Yes.
So you act on it, you think of ideas and working on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes people say, oh, I don't have enough money. Well, but people still doing something little by little, and then they find all these meetup groups and globally find each other, as I spoke with other companies, and they have different people in different countries working on their Bitcoin knowledge and some idea. And that's quite interesting. So you have team in Nicaragua, some Danish people. Any other countries involved?
We have a large office in Kenya. We have offices in several countries in Africa. Our largest office is actually in Kenya. I haven't been out there yet, but I will be going out there soon.
And I know all those countries struggle or with no water or with no food or some hot weather.
Yeah, some of them still have lots of problems, but Africa has a lot of growth. Kenya is one of the fastest growing economies. Nigeria as well. A lot of people are scared about Nigeria, but Nigeria is a very fascinating, dynamic economy. Rwanda, very interesting country, very interesting growing economy. And these countries have real growth, not like the growth that we see here or in Europe.
You mean much higher, right?
Much higher rate, yeah.
Because
Latin
they're
America as
willing
well.
for changes, they didn't have it, so they're hungry for a change.
Yeah.
So the acceptance, like, okay, we want better life now, we don't want to wait for any longer.
And technology and free markets is really what's enabled that process to happen. So now there's a lot of trade between Africa and the Far East, for example, and also between the Middle East. It's very interesting to see these kinds of things. We hope to be able to enable even more of this.
This reminds me when, periodically I have other businesses and you see like somebody from other country trying to use PayPal account to make a transaction and they're willing to pay more. And I'm like, I don't think so, because they can refund their money and I will send them merchandise and I will be without merchandise or and money on my account. While Bitcoin, in 1 hour I know that money sits on my account. About 60 minutes or so when I know that yes, I received the money. I have to figure out how in terms of selling merchandise abroad, but something that hopefully would be easier and trustworthy to do.
Yep. Bitcoin solves a lot of those issues. There are still some issues with Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin, there's no chargebacks, and a lot of merchants see that as a great benefit that a customer cannot do chargeback. But the problem with that is that chargeback actually makes customers feel safe.
Right.
So it's not as bad as people want to make it. It's just PayPal is well known for messing with merchants and freezing accounts if they have some chargebacks and stuff like that. And Bitcoin doesn't do that. But we aim to solve some of those trust issues because trust is a problem with merchants.
Right.
Because yes, the transactions are public, etc. But I think consumers are a little bit worried paying with Bitcoin because they can't go in and call someone.
So, and you cannot really find maybe regulators who can go after them. No Business Better Bureau. We have this here, BBB.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that, and I recommend any business that accepts Bitcoin that they use all of those trust measures. Also have Facebook, Twitter present, all of those kinds of things that help build trust in your business. So you have to do that even if you accept Bitcoin.
But then those people forget that they're dealing with computer geeks who can say, and you can post it online, hey, this merchant charged me 500 Bitcoins and I didn't receive anything in return. And I could see all those angry computer geeks saying and going after this and say, hey, this is wrong, and God knows what's going to happen. I mean, it wouldn't be killed, but definitely it would be teach a lesson. I guess it's called community working together.
And there's a lot of interesting work being done right now on building more trust into the network, building some trust for an address for basically a Bitcoin account. So we're going to see a lot of that happening right now.
Maybe like say, okay, this is 5-star account for a merchant, this is 1-star account, and this is like new, so watch out.
Yeah.
Take at your own risk or something like that. Great. So are you going to stay in Nicaragua now?
I'll be traveling between Nicaragua and Kenya, probably. We'll see where I need to be most, and so I'm not quite sure, to be honest.
All right, so you will be checking a lot of cryptocurrency expertise of yours and make it happen in African continent.
That's our goal.
And that's great. Very good. So what would you wish for our viewers?
Go out and experience Bitcoin, try and get into it, and it is complicated, but we are trying to make it easier to use for people, for non-geeks. It's a really big problem, and particularly crypto geeks are really, really bad at making things understandable. I know that. I am one, so.
Well, I can explain that you can have one Bitcoin, apparently you can break it down, you don't have to spend $122, $23 to buy one Bitcoin. You can buy fraction of the Bitcoin, maybe 1 millionth of Bitcoin, and maybe pay $1, and that would be a fraction of Bitcoin, and it still works, and then it will be still saved on your account. That's what I learned. I learned a lot of things in 3 days. My God, I overwhelmed.
It's a lot to learn with it.
Yes, but at least I'm learning from hand to hand, from the first of the first. So it means that I'm not reading information from somebody else who wrote their opinion or maybe what they heard. They heard because we're hearing it from you, and that's important to know from the first hands. So, and here with us, Kipachi and Taleb Brainguard with us at Bitcoin Conference 2013.
Thank you very much.
Bye.